Welcome. My name is Aurélie. I'm a Vedic astrologer, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming lunar eclipse. Again, I'll be using the Sidereal zodiac, and I'm a Vedic astrologer. So this upcoming eclipse is taking place on the 18th of September in the early morning. It's visible in many places, from America to Europe to some parts of India. I'm going to leave you a link below. You can click on timeanddate.com and have a look to see at what time it's happening in your own location. So we're going to review what the eclipse is. We're going to be talking about the nodes of the moon in Vedic astrology, Rahu and Ketu. Then we're going to be talking about the planetary position, some predictions, and after that we'll be going over Pitru Paksha, which is the ancestors' fortnight, which is beginning with this full moon. It's going to take place for 2 weeks, and it will end with the next dark moon, which is also a solar eclipse, since these always come in pairs, twice a year. We're going to be talking about Rahu and Ketu, the south and north nodes of the moon. Now, because of the movement of the moon oscillating on the ecliptic, we have these points that are mathematical points. Now, in Vedic astrology, we see them as planets, although they're shadow planets, because there are, again, mathematical points that are given by the movement of the moon. And the reason why we talk about it in eclipses is because this is the point at which the eclipses happen. So this time on the 18th of September, we're going to have a partial lunar eclipse that will be visible in many places in the world, from the United States to Europe to a bit of India. And this is when the moon is going to be conjunct Rahu this time and eclipsed in that point of the shadow, in that point of the sky, which is a shadow point. Rahu represents our ahamkara, our sense of self, of I, of ego. And individuality. And sometimes when it's a little overly very strong, it can just show a very strong sense of kind of egotism. Yeah. It also shows manipulation. It has this very smart, manipulative energy, which can be good, it can create very creative thinking, of the box thinking. But yeah, these are some of the energies of Rahu. And Rahu is seen as a head without a body, because mythologically, we're talking about a demon that came to drink the nectar of immortality and got his head and body cut off. So Rahu is the head and Ketu is the body. And that's why we say when Rahu is hungry, it's obsessive, because it just doesn't even feel like it has a body. Meanwhile, Ketu can be a very spiritual node, but it also shows very hidden aspects of the self. Wherever it is, it shows there's something hidden that is not being seen. Okay. Now for spirituality, again, it's a very spiritual planet. And sometimes it can also represent thieves, because again, this aspect of hiding things. But also it can show aspects of our lives where we can be headless, not be thinking enough. Yeah. So again, there are two extremes. And the way we see them in a chart is they're opposite each other. So if which is not, but if Rahu was in Aries in the first house, then Ketu would be in the 7th. They're always opposite each other, because that's how they relate to the movement of the moon, which we talked about. So Rahu and Ketu. Okay. Now, we've mentioned a few times about shadows, right? Because eclipses are a time of the year where the sun and the moon are going to go into shadow, okay? No one can deny that. And during this time, it's really pushing us to see aspects of ourselves, a part of our lives that maybe we're not seeing clearly, because it's, again, bringing up this energy of shadowy things. And that's why it's also not recommended to start new things. And we say on the other side of the sets of eclipses, there is greater clarity. So we use this time for spiritual practice, to take care of ourselves, and for big decisions, for important things, we wait until we're on the other side. Now, this specific eclipse happening on Wednesday is going to be taking place in the very expansive sign of Pisces. Okay. Pisces is a water sign. It represents oceans, bodies of oceans, big bodies of water. And it's the natural 12th house, yeah, which is kind of the subconscious, what's in the back of the mind, this like swimming, expansive energy. Now, because this eclipse is this moon going to lose light right with Rahu in Pisces, we could just sense a certain, just little warning around anything that has to do with waves and oceans and tsunami like events. Now, again, it's the moon with this Rahu energy, so it could create a lot of anxiety. And Rahu is of air. So the influence of air on the moon, on the mind, it's very pushing the mind to be changeable. But sometimes we make decisions where we're not really thinking through. So it's important during these times to really think through our decisions and be mindful because of this Rahu influence. Venus is currently debilitated. So it's really emphasizing this weakening of the water element because the moon is water element. We're talking about what's happening with the moon, and now we're talking about Venus being debilitated. And during this eclipse, Venus will be in the very high degrees of its debilitation, almost moving to the much more auspicious Libra. But so there's going to be instability and low water on some level. So we have to be very mindful of our emotions and take care of our emotional heart and our relationships. Venus represents romance and relationships. So just be mindful and patient and try to wait until the other side. And I've spoken about this, but Venus is under both the influence of Mars and Ketu. We talked about Ketu being headless and fiery, and Mars is a fiery planet, so it just could bring a lot of has this rageful energy. So overall, stay hydrated, mind your emotions, be really patient in your relationships. And if anxiety comes, just be patient. Now we're going to talk more specifically on the planetary positions. So until the other side of the eclipse, so until we get to October 3rd, we have Saturn debilitated in Ketu in the Navamsha, and that's a bit inauspicious just on a world level. It's not auspicious. On Monday the 16th, we're going to have Sankranti, so the sun is going to be moving to Virgo, and that's about a day and a half right before we have an eclipse. So it's a bit of a not very auspicious day. If you can, again, I'm reiterating not starting new things, but especially on that Monday 16th, just try to try to not start something new. We're talking a little bit extra military. The sun, is very important for starting things, and also it being in the beginning degree of a sign shows that it's not stable, it's not strong yet, and that's why I'm mentioning some military action. Now, again, we talked about the full moon on the 18th, early hours. You can look at timeanddates.com. I'll drop a link below and just have a look to see at what time it's happening in your location. During the eclipse, we talked that Venus will just about make its way to Libra. So a few hours after the eclipse, when Venus is going to be transiting. And again, what's important to understand is that when there's planet in between, there's instability. Now, once Venus moves to Libra, it's a very auspicious transit. It's its own sign, so that's very good. And Mercury is going to be moving on the 23rd to its exaltation sign, which will be almost very good until we pass the point of the eclipse, since the eclipse will be happening in Virgo. Now, again, we talked about this big emphasis on water. So I mentioned a little bit some possibility of some water event related to Earth happening around the lunar eclipse, which is the 18th, right? And especially because there's been a lot of earthquake activity in Papua New Guinea, so in that area could be a wave. And for more earthquake event, that's more likely to be when there's a closer to the solar eclipse happening in Virgo. Virgo is an earth sign. And often, if you've been following me, you know that I talk about earthquakes and hot moments for earthquakes, and it's mostly because this year, the nodes, we talked about Rahu and Ketu always being opposite, are on an axis that is, if you look at mundane astrology, it's very well known, and that it's an axis that produces and provokes earthquakes. So that's why I'm talking a lot more about earthquakes this year than usual. And the two axes that give that are the axis between Virgo and Pisces and Gemini Sagittarius. Now, other things like conjunctions, especially of Saturn, Ketu, Saturn, Rahu, will absolutely also trigger that. And Mercury in Gandanta. But this time we're looking at Virgo and Pisces. Let's keep going. Okay, so it's just a little review. Practice surrender and be patient. Take care of yourself. Have a nice healing bath. Go be by water again to make sure this water element stays strong inside. Be soft and gentle as you can. Stay aware, open-hearted. Pitru Paksha. So we're shifting gear. Now, this upcoming eclipse and full moon is celebrated for Ganesha. That's something else that should be known. So if you have a Ganesha mantra, it's a great time to help you overcome whatever obstacles are coming into your life. This is a special time to worship Ganesha. Just be aware of that in the Vedic calendar. Once this full moon comes, it marks a beginning of a very special festival that is called Pitru Paksha, which is the ancestors' fortnight. Now, she wants to say something. The ancestors' fortnight and the fly. Pitru Paksha. Okay. So this full moon marks the beginning of Pitru Paksha. Pitru Paksha is a festival which worships the ancestors. It's a 2 weeks festival which begins on a full moon and ends on a dark moon. As we get closer to the dark moon, things get more intense. It's said that all kinds of spirits roam the earth at this time. And be mindful. If you're someone that has had encounters with ghosts, been bothered by dreams, is very close to the spirit realm, be sure to do your mantras. There are protection mantras that are very good to recite. You can do some incense and use, for example, gugul is a wonderful incense. Just be careful, it gets really warm when you use it. So just follow the rules to keep your house safe. It's a resin. Gugul is a resin, but you can find it in an incense sometimes too. It's very good to clear kind of the energy around the house. So just be mindful of those 2 weeks. Now, the thing is about Pitru Paksha, sometimes we have very good ancestral karma, and the ancestors will come and truly give us blessings. And sometimes there's unhappy ancestors or some ancestors' difficulties. And the ancestors will come and there will be it will be a 2 weeks that may not be easy. So just be aware that it's a bit of interesting 2 weeks. Be mindful of who comes into your life. Overall, the recommendation during this time is to do your regular day-to-day life and be happy and have beautiful meals with your family. And, wait until past that eclipse, past that dark moon of the ancestors. So we reviewed this and we are gonna move over. Oh, I just want to show you this slide. I know there's a fly in my eyes. Should do something for the sun. The sun rules over the eyes. She's really having a go at it. All right. The eclipse timing. So just review a little bit when the eclipses are happening so you can take a screenshot or have it in your calendar. I didn't go so much into the lunar mention because I think there's enough indication of which elements are debilitated or troubled in the sky. So, and the planetary positions and the degrees of the planet. So I focus rather on that aspect of it. I'm sure you'll find plenty written about that. But again, we have this partial lunar eclipse in Pisces. We have this dark moon solar eclipse in Virgo, Hasta. Those are 2 very spiritual signs. So just remember, this is also spiritual moments, yeah? This is the moment where we worship Ganesha. This is the moment where we worship our ancestors and we tune into the ancestral lineages and the ancestral heritages we carry within ourselves. So let's just honor that and those festivals, yeah? All right. So again, embracing this mystical month. I hope you found this helpful and clear. I'm wishing you so much love, so much light. If you want a reading, let me know. I'm available. I love having clients, and I love talking to people about their charts and what's going on in their lives. I do also coaching sometimes with some of my clients where we go over the calendar and which dates to plan their travels and their big meetings, and we kind of schedule their lives so that they're not traveling or signing an important lease or an important contract on a dark moon where there is, the sun is very weak and whatnot. So it's a really sweet practice. So I'm here, and now we're gonna do a moon mantra. And I'll finish off with this beautiful moon mantra that is very appeasing to the mind and the moon. So we'll do that a few times, and I'll chant it a few times, and this you can just go when you need to go. Okay? Since it's the end of the video, I get to do that. I won't cut it. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh. Take a breath with me. Make sure you feel the space in your nostril and the air moving through. So much of our mental well-being is ruled by the quality of our breathing. Om Ganganapataye Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.